Hello, good viber. How are you doing today? It is your girl Esther Joy coming at you with another video. Now, on this channel, we like to talk about love, light, and peace. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Great Reset, as well as the timelines that we are seeing splitting during this time, what it means when we talk about dimensions, densities, splitting, shifting, filtering through what that looks like in a human perspective. And I hope that this video will give you some food for thought, inspire you to really take your timeline into your own hands and be an active explorer on this journey, on this lifetime and timeline. So I'm gonna just start off by saying that we are seeing a lot of changes. It's been done changing for a good while now, and it is becoming more and more obvious that our time, the timelines, we are beginning a new era and an old one is closing. So the Great Reset, when we think about the timelines, we could think of a timeline, and not even like just a timeline, just space, how time has worked throughout history, how we see there's nothing new under the sun, and time again, history repeats itself. So with the Great Reset, energy cannot be destroyed or created. It is cycling through a massive scale. We're seeing a shift, a very big shift happen all at once. Of course, it's happening right now as we speak, and when I say all at once, it's there are sometimes more potent pockets of time than others, but we're definitely, and I think you can agree, you're seeing this big shift. So let's talk a little bit about that right now. We're going to talk a little bit about dimensions, densities, the greatest of all dimensions, and overall the splitting of timelines, time jumping, time travel, galactic beings, also maybe what their role is in terms of understanding dimensions. Okay, so let's start off with dimensions, how we perceive dimensions. Now, every person is going to perceive dimensions differently because our extrasensory perception threshold is different. Some of us will hear things, some of us will see things, some of us will feel things, some of us will just know things, right? Every single person is divinely created in a unique way for their mission. And so keeping that in mind, each person is going to perceive the timelines differently. You can have two people in the same room experience the same thing and perceive it in such a different, drastically different way. So that's the whole concept of the dimensions phasing through. There are infinite dimensions that we live on. I believe God is the greatest of all dimensions, and in turn is like this realm of infinite potential and possibility that goes beyond my comprehension. Now, tapping back into this, so we have a threshold of perception. Our threshold of perception is governed by our human body, more or less. So our human body, it picks up on the sensations of touch, smell, taste, sight, sound, and feeling. It really is there to kind of pick up on these sensations, process them so that we can feel and understand and comprehend them in a certain way and navigate through the timeline and this time-space continuum that we're in. Okay, cool. Now, densities. Now, when we look at densities, you are already familiar with this. You can look at densities when you look at oil and water. Oil is lighter than water, therefore it doesn't mix with water. It floats and stays above water's surface because it is a lighter density. Water is a heavier density most of the time. Now, of course, on a higher level, you also know that densities, we have different densities of consciousness. Physical reality is on a lower density than maybe our thought forms. And so certain perceptions and dimensions are on higher densities, or lower densities. So you've probably heard of the 3D, the third density, or the fifth density, or the ninth density, or 11th density. You've probably may be familiar with her, the 3D or the 5D. And so I've talked about this before in videos, that we're seeing this splitting happening in the 3D and 5D in terms of the densities. this is where you could say consciousness is inhabiting the space. When consciousness inhabits more space, I'm not really sure, again, I'm trying to find the right words to like communicate this, the lower the density is. Now, a low density does not necessarily mean bad. You know, I don't believe God, source, oneness, the greatest of all dimensions, sees good and bad the same way we do. I think it's just a simple fact of this is heavy or this is light. Sure, certain vibrations we may like to feel a little bit more, but each one has its pro and con. With a heavier density, you feel more grounded, safe, secure. Overall, you feel like the world is supporting you a little bit more. With a lighter density, you may be disassociating. You may find yourself kind of not fully present with the space that you're in because you're just vibing on, your consciousness is at a higher density, which may be looking down at the experience that you're having instead of being engulfed in it. Okay. All right. So we talked about dimensions. We talked about densities. Cool. Let's talk a little bit about this timeline shift now that's happening. All right. You already know the time is now. The time is now, and it's only going to be now, right here now, that we are seeing and experiencing this life. And the timeline split is something that's eternally happening because, again, energy cannot be destroyed or created. It just cycles through. So this concept of the timeline splitting, you could say, is there's a lot of things coming to my mind, but I think the simplest way I like to describe it is a white hole and a black hole together. The white hole is emitting energy at a very fast and powerful way. The black hole is absorbing that energy in an equal measure and a flow. So they're kind of just bouncing back and forth with this energy. Okay, timeline splitting. What does this mean? What does this look like? Ooh, okay, first off, I feel like the full moon also it's for me, I see a lot more people being aware of the moon's energy and how it may be emotionally impacting them during certain times, or noticing the peaks and the synchronicities with not just the moon, but just the whole solar clock that we have that's connected here on Earth. So I do see people being more synced up. Okay, so here's what I would say. Like there's going to be a time where everything, and it already is here, it's already happening, but it's, I feel, going to be more consciously understood and acknowledged, the synchronicities of timelines, the harmonizing of like this timeline where communication, interaction, just every single aspect of life is so in sync with this universal timeline. It's already here. It's always been here. I think that that's going to continue to kind of amplify with this great reset. But you'll also have another aspect of resistance that is trying to force upon this artificial harmony of timeline that, again, it's coming from a lower dimension, 3D, where it's security and this artificially kind of created, you could say, timeline is there to create security, and it is creating structure in one way because we need these two poles, these two opposite polarizing energies to kind of push together for us to find a center and a balance, knowing where the flow is, knowing where the resistance is. So, yeah, I would like to just note that during this time, top things for you to do, and what I'm doing, is trusting in where I am at. Really trusting wherever it is, whatever I'm doing, just knowing I'm supposed to be there. And this can be, you know, small synchronicities for me. Sometimes they're just signs that say you're where you need to be, like literally. Sometimes it's really not that, like maybe somebody says something that just makes me realize like, yep, this is where I'm supposed to be. It can even be an unpleasant situation that kind of draws my attention and makes me also realize that, hey, I'm here to learn this lesson and actually be present with the medicine at this time. So being aware, you know, there's no need for you to resist. Just see where you can kind of live a little bit more while you're alive. Really enjoy your time here on Earth in a holistic and wholesome way, and just like enjoy it. Yeah, look for that harmony, the synchronicities. You don't have to look far. Just trust and surrender. It'll fall to you. And take one day at a time. Take one moment at a time. Take one breath at a time. Take time to breathe with those. I feel like collectively breathing consciously together, it's going to do a lot to sync up the timelines with this more natural, harmonious timeline. And this is just a simple act of breathing. Even if somebody, you don't have to say, hey, stop, let's breathe. You can simply just begin by mirroring another person's breath and then consciously bring awareness to the breath and slow it down lovingly and harmoniously to kind of center a timeline where you're connected with this person in a natural way, as natural as taking a breath of air and sharing that with them. Yes, so that is today's video, fam. I hope that you liked it, you got some food for thought, that you continue to trust that you're in the right timeline. Enjoy and explore where you're at. Take time, be patient, and really just be present as much as you can. I urge you to do so. Yeah, I love you. Namaste. God bless.